The ANC Member of Parliament, Soviet Lekganyane, has been elected to lead Parliament's ad hoc committee probing explosive claims of criminality, political interference and corruption in the police. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has accused suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and other senior officials of meddling in investigations and links to criminals. Lekganyane's appointment has drawn criticism, though, from some opposition parties, including ActionSA, MK Party and the EFF, who say it could undermine public trust. For more on this, I'm joined by Khanyi Magubane, who is a political analyst, as well as the MK Party MP Sibonelo Nomvalo. In fact, I want to start with Mr. Nomvalo before we bring you in, Khanyi joining us on the line. Mr. Nomvalo, just from the work that was done this week and the election of the chairperson of the committee, just tell me what your thinking as a party is going into this committee before we talk about your reservations about the chairperson that was eventually elected. How do you see this committee shaping up, and what in your mind should it be probing first and foremost?
Good evening, good afternoon to Lasizwe, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. We are very happy with the establishment of the ad hoc committee. In fact, it's what we desired to see as the MK Party. You would remember that when a motion was tabled in the National Assembly, we rose to support the motion, and we raised our view that we want to see this committee working uninterrupted, and we do not want to see any undue political influence, because unlike other committees that have operated before, that have done some investigations before, this one is dealing with critical issues of national importance, and of those issues is the national security of South Africa. So it's very important when it does its work, it must do it with high levels of objectivity, impartiality, and fairness. So what we desire to see in this committee is it doing its work without any influence. Too, as the MK Party, we're going to ensure that we safeguard its integrity and its credibility. We will ensure that there is no wrongfulness that finds expression with a view of trying to influence the outcomes.
Yeah. So, if I stick with you, Mr. Nomvalo, just from the very first meeting, I got a sense that this is going to be a robust committee, just from composition, and it speaks, I suppose, to how high the stakes are. The ANC deploying its chief whip, the EFF deploying its leader, and other parties as well represented at a very senior level. So then tell me about your concerns about the chairperson that was then elected, Soviet Lekganyane. Why does his election concern you as a party?
Okay. Our concern arises from two perspectives, Tulasizwe. The first perspective is that, one, we do not want to see this committee being reduced to a ceremonial realm that is designed to exempt certain individuals. Like I've said earlier, that we want it to do its work with impartiality and objectivity. Two, based on the allegations which were tabled by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi during the press briefing, it became clear, even to a 6-year-old child, that many people who are implicated in these allegations that he raised are members of the ANC. And you can't treat allegations which have been raised by police officers as mere allegations. They are serious allegations, because when you go to court, the prosecutor uses the investigation that has been made by the police officer as the evidence. That is number two. Then number three, the executive, which is being led by Cyril Ramaphosa, and which consists of two parties mainly, the DA and the ANC, has shown and has demonstrated that it is not willing to deal with these issues with the high level of seriousness. Because one, on the issue of Senzo Mchunu, instead of just removing him from the cabinet, they resorted to do something which we have never heard of, something which is unprecedented, something which is unconstitutional, unlawful, and invalid. Now, the ANC has demonstrated that it does not take these allegations with the high levels of seriousness that they deserve.
Yeah.
So we do not have confidence in the chairperson not because we doubt his competency as an individual, but because of a political environment from which he comes. And the ANC has made it clear that it is in defense of Senzo Mchunu in this regard, who is highly implicated by the allegations.
But in fairness, though, Mr. Nomvalo, in fairness, nowhere, if I recall correctly, nowhere did General Mkhwanazi specifically name a political party, and more specifically, the ANC. He alluded to politicians, including members of parliament. It could be members of parliament from any party.
No. He mentioned the people. That is why Senzo Mchunu responded on the same day when he was addressing in an ANC gathering. He responded, remember, and he even mentioned that he knows Brown Mkhwanazi. Remember, General Mkhwanazi mentioned Brown Mkhwanazi, and Senzo Mchunu said, I know Brown Mkhwanazi as a member of the ANC.
Sure.
So that is a mentioning of a person to a mentioning of a political party. So he did mention names, and those people are coming from the ANC.
All right, let's pause it there for a moment and bring in Khanyi Magubane. Khanyi, you've been listening to this conversation, and I want you to weigh in on in fact, let's start with the misgivings. What do you make of the misgivings by these political parties, such as ActionSA, MK Party, and the EFF around the chairperson, who was, by the way, elected uncontested?
Thank you very much. I think that the misgivings definitely are valid, because this is similar to the ethics committee at least 2 or 3 days after General Mkhwanazi made the explosive claims, and then Senzo Mchunu was brought before them. I mean, it's like investigating yourself. I think that the misgivings that I even have around Lekganyane being the chairperson of this particular ad hoc committee is that, number one, there's a caucus in Parliament. And he's not just going to go there as a chairperson, he's going to go there with a mandate. And as much as there are going to be other representatives from other parties, and as you've alluded, at a very senior level, however, we've seen the importance of chairpersons. We've seen how they steer committees and how influential they are. And so I think that if the ANC wants to continue to have us believe in how serious they are in weeding out the rot amongst them, then Mr. Lekganyane, as competent as he is, should have been a member of the ad hoc committee and not the chairperson. In fact, I can say somebody like Julius Malema should have been appointed as a chairperson, because not only is he from the opposition party, but I think Julius can put the right amount of fire that is needed in this committee for what we need to come out, because we don't want this to be another cosmetic exercise. Those parliamentarians are going to have to fire some really serious questions, and they've started. The truth needs to come out. But if somebody has a vested interest in protecting the very people that have been accused, then he may even try to influence and steer the direction of the ad hoc committee, which is what people really have a problem, because he's going to go in there with a mandate from the caucus and from the party.
But on what are we finding, on what is this founded, Khanyi, this concern about the role of the chairperson? We've seen committees that are chaired by ANC members deliver on the mandate. The ad hoc committee that looked into allegations at ESCOM, I don't think anyone can seriously argue that it didn't deliver on the work that was at hand at that particular point. The follow-through was, a different matter altogether, because much of it laid outside of the competency of that committee itself. Just recently, the committee led by an ANC member, Higher Education Committee, delivered in terms of holding the executive to account. So I'm just trying to really understand that, do we have enough evidence to show that when a committee is led by an ANC chairperson, composed as it does in the 7th Parliament right now by a robust set of MPs from other parties that it can be ineffective? Just square that for me.
Okay, so I'm glad that you brought the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training, because I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he is an ANC chairperson. Before they delivered, let's look at the different meetings that did sit.
Yeah.
When the DG from Higher Education said, especially from the EFF, through very specific questions at the DG, specifically around the processes of appointing speakers. And it was the chairperson who protected the DG and said, no, he's not going to answer those questions because the minister is coming. Right, and this is just maybe a week or two before the former Minister Nkabane came.
Yeah.
And we saw the chairperson being criticized for protecting the DG because the questions they were asking were relevant to the DG, because the minister only comes at the end to appoint the actual speaker board. But in terms of the actual process, from the coming up with the criteria, the interviewing of the candidates, the DG is the one that is responsible. So the chairperson is important, and he can take certain decisions that can actually affect how the committee works and what kind of questions the people who are appearing answer or don't answer. Once the chairperson says, no, this one is not going to answer that question, like we saw with the DG, he didn't answer those questions.
Yeah. Lastly then, Mr. Nomvalo, let me just give you a parting shot on this. I suppose you go into this committee then with your guard up and you are fully alert, given the concerns that you have. Let me just quickly ask you, you were meant to have received the draft terms of reference by close of business yesterday that underscores the urgency with which the work needs to be done. Have you received those, and are you happy to proceed on that basis?
No. The initial agreement was that we are going to receive the terms of reference, the draft terms of reference on Tuesday after our first meeting. It never happened, and we raised our concern to the technical team that we are not going to, that we are very concerned about this kind of demise and laziness, because when we have agreed as a committee on something on a certain time frame, it must happen. We're not going to roll a red carpet for laziness here. But we did receive them yesterday. We received them late, and the expectation is that we must make additions to those terms of reference. We do feel that there are certain areas that the terms of reference are not reflecting, and we'll ensure that we make additions in terms of how we view the work of the ad hoc committee. We'll make additions before the end of business on Monday, this coming Monday.
All right. Gora, thank you for your time this afternoon. That's MK Party Member of Parliament, Sibonelo Nomvalo, as well as political analyst Khanyi Magubane.